All right. Muting.
Same.
Bandwidth for First Updates Now is supported by the Blue Alliance. Make TBA Game Day your go-to destination for live first events, including kickoff at thebluealliance.com/game day.
People are interested.
But you know what? If you send me an email, you'll get a response, and it will be from me.
And I really don't have any desire to.
You haven't watched the trailer at all?
No.
A lot of people haven't heard of the couch division, so
It's a comfy division to be in, though.
it's super comfy. It's almost too comfy at times.
Your response to teams who see that as a new potential issue with districts?
Yeah, that's really a two-pronged question.
Let's see if there's any damage from that fall. There was. They snapped 330. Still on their back. 6 seconds to go.
Or was the highest ranked. But then as votes continue to pour in, everything kind of changed around a little bit. So we forget about that.
First Updates Now is brought to you by AnyMark. Are you competition ready? Count on AnyMark to be your source to stock up on batteries, boulders, components, and more at anymark.com.
Tonight on First Updates Now recap, First Steamworks and the build season is a go. We got the master, Ryan Dognaux, here to help us analyze Steamworks and to make some bold predictions on how Steamworks is going to shake up. We'll also check in with a team from Indiana and find out what type of robots we believe are going to make an appearance in Einstein this year. All this and more coming up on First Updates Now recap. I'm Tyler Olds.
I'm Justin Montois.
And I'm Mike Starke.
Let's bring in our guest for tonight's show, Ryan Dognaux. Welcome to the show, Ryan. And why don't you let the Fun Nation know a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, so thanks for having me, guys. So I've been involved with FRC since 2002. I was originally on Cyberblue 234 as a student. Went to Purdue, mentored 1646 Precision Guessworks up there, and then worked for Boeing and mentored Team 357 in Philly. And most recently have been mentoring Team 4329 here in St. Charles, Missouri.
Oh, that's awesome. What's 357? What team number is that?
357's Royal Assault. They stopped in 2015. Recycle
cool.
Rush literally killed them.
Wow.
I have to say, Precision Guessworks is one of my favorite team names of all time.
Yeah, we like it.
That was a rad name, yeah.
It really
Very
is.
cool, Ryan. Well, thanks so much for being on the show with us. So let's jump right into it. So Steamworks is finally out, and we all know that thousands of teams right now are digging deep to get their strategies and design requirements going, hopefully in that order. So Ryan, let's start with you. Give us your overall impression of Steamworks.
So I think it's really cool. I give First a lot of credit, for kind of going with another theme game. Last year's game, Stronghold, turned out really cool, I thought, with the whole medieval theme. They've done a good job with Disney again, doing another theme. And the initial impression for me is, there's just a lot to do in this game. There's plenty of ways for all the teams to contribute, I think. So it's going to be a good game in that regard. Plenty of things to do.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I posted on Facebook right after, just like, holy cow, like I just could not believe it. The human players on the field, I think, is a really cool aspect. I know we've already talked about how awesome it's going to be to have GoPro, headgear and chest gear on, just to have a view from on the field. There's a lot to do in this
body
game.
cam's in a good light, finally.
Yeah, exactly, right? I think there's a lot to do. Two very unique and completely different game pieces is a really exciting element as well. The rope climb is really an interesting aspect too. So there's a lot going on. And for myself and Team 3015, we're all very excited.
So the one thing I'll say is, I've talked about it in a couple of different shows in regards to theming. I was not the biggest fan of Stronghold and the whole kind of shift of theme-wise. But with that said, I think extra year experience under their belt with Disney, I think has really proven some good dividends. And I think we're starting to see, in my opinion, a much more fulfilled, like the game itself of Stronghold was a good game in my opinion, but there was some kind of lack of continuity in the way I looked at it. This year, man, like, yeah, I'm all on board. I mean, I'm all on board the Steamworks train. It looks really cool. As Justin mentioned, the pilots on the field is something that, like, I've talked about on some of the other RI3D streams that we're doing. Is I can't wait to see somebody just beamed in the face, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't think somebody's going to be in the way the plexiglass is kind of listed, but there's going to be an inverted objects flying through the air for something like that. But I think that's the fun of it. I think we're getting a lot of cool compilation things. We're getting shooting, we're getting climbing, we're getting a different mechanism delivery. And there's human player interaction, but it's not fully dictating the game. I mean, they have to do something to get the points right, but that's not something. That's something for the most part anybody can do for that.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. So I'm going to kind of preface all of this with saying I've only been able to watch the animation a couple times. I haven't been able to read any of the rules at all yet. So that being said, a couple of my initial thoughts are I think there's a lot of things going on, which is pretty cool. Like you just said, Tyler, you got shooting, you got climbing, you got somewhat, I mean, I'm sure it's going to be a lot more crowded than it looks right now, but somewhat of an open field, so some defense, hopefully. My only concerns is that they're, with a lot going on, I think it's a lot harder to explain the games to people and how, with the different points and all that stuff. But overall, I think it's really interesting, and I can't wait to find out more about it and some more of the intricate details about the game.
All right, well, let's talk some interesting changes for 2017 moving forward. We have different robot configurations. You can't extend outside the frame perimeter. That's back again. And we have human players called pilots, as we mentioned, in the middle of the field. And there's a few other changes as well. And that's why we bring in the experts like Ryan that talk about what are some of those other changes and the ones that we mentioned, and what are kind of your reactions to those? How do you approach those?
So one of the big ones this year, kind of as you mentioned, the robot volume sizing has changed. There's kind of two distinct ones that you have to fit within, either configuration A, which is 36 by 40 by 24 inches, or configuration B, which is 30 by 32 by 36. So you can kind of have a 3-foot tall robot, but smaller length and width, or you can have a 2-foot tall robot and have a little more width and length. But bumpers are included in that volume, which every team needs to know that. That's big this year.
Yeah.
I guarantee
Yes.
There's going to be a team at every regional that's probably chopping their frame in half.
Not kidding.
So, that being said, roughly 7.5 inches of your volume is going to be taken up by bumpers. And if you have any kind of extension, it can be within that volume once the match starts, but you can't extend outside of that volume, right? So you could have some kind of intake or something that would fold down, but it has to fit within that volume. So it's kind of interesting. It's definitely a big design challenge in terms of packaging everything. And as you guys were saying, the human players on the field, I mean, that's just a huge change, right? That hasn't happened since 2003.
Yeah, that was only a momentary thing.
Yeah.
Oh, right, in the beginning, I forgot about that.
All right, Justin, how about yourself?
I mean, from a team perspective, I love it when we can challenge teams that have been around for a while, but also present our students with really, I like the clear choice, right? The A configuration or the B configuration. There's a lot of really good discussion that can happen based on that. Your strategy is decided what robot configuration works best. That's a great decision to have. Gear versus, ball robot or some combination of both, great discussion to have. So I think this game presents a lot of really good discussions. And I am really excited about the robot configuration. I like that FIRST decided that kind of no rule was too sacred to change, and they got rid of the robot perimeter rule, which has been around for a while. So I was happy to see that go. But my biggest, and if you go back and watch some of the other, our pre-kickoff games, I prayed and begged. I was like, please just give me a game where I can hold, a lot of game pieces. Let me design for how many game pieces I can hold. So, when I saw that, I was very excited about that. So we're excited about big harvesters and big hoppers and shooting a bunch of balls. So it's good stuff.
Very cool. Was there a height for the bumpers? Do they need to be a certain height or a certain range?
It's low. I think the bumper zone's like 0 to 7.
Yeah, 0 to 7.
So it's super low.
0 to
So
7. So one of those balls can't fit underneath one of the bumpers?
Right. That's what they're hoping.
That's what they're. Wow. So that's interesting. How you get them off the floor then? So those two. That's really. What's that?
So you got two options. Either don't, right? Either use the field hoppers as a little ball delivery system, or you just have to make sure your bumpers don't go to that edge of that maximum volume. Then you can extend out over the bumper with the harvester. You just can never exceed that kind of the super guideline, which is the maximum volume.
Interesting. Wow.
You could have a break in your bumpers too. I think it's 6 inches this year instead of 8. So.
Can we elaborate a little bit more on the bumpers, because that's changed too in regards to the height requirements as well. If I remember, the bumpers technically start at 0 inches. Is that right off the ground?
Yeah,
Is that something that's from last year, from all the teams having their bumpers fall off, that now technically they're legal to have it that way? Or what do you think is the thought process behind that?
It's funny. I spent a lot of time thinking, like, for the example, the bringing your own rope. Like, you can bring a team rope and swap it out with the field rope for your match. So I like to think, like, when they were in the game design meetings and they're all sitting around, who was the person that brought up that idea and how did that come about? And the bumper thing, I think it was, okay, we have all these small game elements. How are we going to prevent, matches from being stalemated because so many teams are high centered on a ball? So they force teams to bring their bumpers down, and at least they'll keep the balls out of underneath their robots. But I still think you'll see a few teams get stuck on the gears.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
But
that's it's like the Tortugas from last year, right?
That's right. But somebody's gonna get Tortuga on a gear.
A new name for the gears and for the fuel.
Yep.
I think it's nice with virtually the unlimited amount of balls you can have in your robot that it allows. I think. Do you think that's because it's just impossible to count a game piece that's much smaller than in years past? Like, how can you count 10 balls that are from a distance? So maybe that's why they went that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that stuff is just born out of the nature of the game. But we haven't had a game like this since really 2009, where you had a robot that could hold quite a number of balls. So I'm very excited about that.
But I gotta interject. Does anybody? To me, this game yells 2004 to me.
Really?
Kind of with the dump.
You have those dumper areas. You have the gears, which they're not 2x balls, but then you have like the climbing. To me, it's like those different kind of areas coming together, and I love 2004. It's my favorite year. So that's when I saw this, I'm like, man, this is like what I wanted when I was a senior in high school for something like that. So that's what comes into my mind.
Very cool.
I guess I got stuck with triple play when I was a senior. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was not good. That was not fun.
Not great.
All right, well, we can move on then.
Is it my turn?
It is.
So let's talk strategies. So I want to jump to the conclusion they want a robot to do everything. True. Experience tells us that you may have, been faced with a tough choice, specializing in a certain game objective or potentially sacrificing efficiency. You've tried to do everything. So what could a team who wants to stand out from the crowd do as a specialty that might kind of earn them either be the top alliance captain or the top pick of that alliance captain?
So definitely during qualifications, if you go and look at how the rankings shake out this year, you can get an extra rank point if you score the amount of steam or ball or fuel to get the 40 kPa, right? So it's a little bit harder, I think, than the breach was last year, because teams were solo breaching, pretty much halfway through their first regional once they figured out how to cross them. So I think you're going to see a lot of teams that may be specialized with the fuel, and try to go for that one additional rank point. And if they can get the 3 rank points and maybe also score a couple of gears to get additional points to win the match, for a lot of regionals, especially early on, that'll probably seed you pretty high.
So to me, from a standout team area, man, it's a tough question because it's standing out at what level, right? So if you're looking at a regional level for it, I think, when I look at that, I think there are a lot of teams, especially early regionals, you can win by just getting enough gears, right? By fulfilling all that is, to me, in a lot of cases, enough points for that, especially in the playoffs. Because in the playoffs, instead of it being an equal ranking point for each, right? If you get the right amount of KPA, that's only worth 20 extra points. You get all the rotors going, it's worth 100 extra points.
Yeah.
And I'll ask, because maybe I missed this. Do you have to do one in order to do the other, like last year?
The rotors?
Yeah. Do you have to get the KPA amount first?
No, nope. The KPA is separate. You can do you can do that.
Then why is that only worth 20 points in the playoffs versus 100 for the rotors?
I don't know. And we talked about that a lot too. During, first test their game internally. They play with mock robots they built. They do humans standing as robots. So I have to believe that during their testing, they must think that getting 40 KPA isn't that difficult. And, a lot of teams are going to do it. I was actually surprised to see that in the rules, that number is not something that they kind of have the authority to change going into championship. Because you're right. It seems like the gears, especially in the playoffs, have a huge advantage over Steam, but we'll see.
So 40 KPA comes from the boiler, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
So the rules are 3 balls is 1 point, so you have to get to 40 points.
In teleop you do, yep. But in autonomous, one high ball is 1 point.
So that is in the minimum 120 balls.
Yeah, if you're only in teleop, yeah.
Okay.
Which, if that's your
otherwise
strategy, you're in trouble.
Yeah, well, and maybe the kind of directly answer the question too. When we say at what level, if we're getting to a level where you have robots that can shuttle a lot of those gears and get all that, then to me the standout is to have a robot that can score a lot of balls in a given amount of time. And the power of autonomous this year is, I think, very underrated, and I think it's huge. It's absolutely huge to be able to get either that gear for 60 points in autonomous, or to have that much going towards your KPA in auto. You need to get those 10 balls scored in autonomous if you want to be able to get the rest, especially until we get to like an MSC or a championships. I don't think you're going to see robots scoring a ton of balls each match. 120 balls I don't think is anything realistic if they're not scoring in auto.
Agreed. Yeah, very rarely does a team who struggles in auto all of a sudden shows up and is a dynamo in teleop. Like, if your mechanism isn't there, it's not there. So
yeah.
I agree. I think there's just as a brief little side question, in the worst stronghold matches, right, where teams, especially early on, where high goal scoring was extremely difficult, the games were still they weren't terrible, right? Teams are still crossing defenses. Teams are shuttling balls into the low goal. I feel like at the low level, this game is going to be kind of brutal, because if you can't pick up balls efficiently, and then you probably can't do gears too well, and you're probably certainly not climbing. So I think in those kind of ho-hum matches, I think it's going to be a tough game to watch.
Right, Ryan, what do you think about that?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, even the lowest scoring option isn't on the floor this year, right?
Exactly.
It's kind of mid-level, so you really have to design something to do it, at least to just run into it and dump them in. And it's not all that valuable, It's like nine balls equals 1 KPA, right? So
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess if you're gonna do something, that's nice to help an alliance, I guess, a little bit. But man, it's pretty small returns on quite a bit of effort.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Justin, I was kind of thinking, from my minimal experience of looking at it, if in those lower level matches, like what, nobody's getting gears up into the airship, like what are those people doing up there? I don't know. I just kind of feel bad.
They got the best seat in the house.
I guess so.
Yeah, selfies.
I say they're like a 254 autonomous from 2012. They can just wave their arms randomly.
Yeah.
I know.
They're flying. What do you mean, dude? They're flying the airship. Come on.
They're not flying it yet.
Yes, cheerio. It's crackers.
Yeah.
All right. So before we do move on, we do want to have one of our giveaways that we had here. So we're giving away a Andy Mark T-shirt, one of the official gear game pieces, and also a 6-pack of the fuel. All thanks to Andy Mark. So thank you very much for giving that away. Ryan, I'll let you pick. What's the first thing we're going to give away?
What were the options?
It's either a gear, 6-pack of fuel, or an Andy Mark T-shirt.
Let's go with the fuel.
Fuel. All right. So we're gonna do that in just a moment. So in the last show we just had Go Pack Go got you a better chance for getting it because that was important. What do you guys think for this time? What should the chat put?
Let's see who can correctly type in the game manual code.
The game manual code.
I just found it actually.
So we'll do that for future winners. We'll pick a winner right now, and then we'll do that for the future winners on there. So let's let Nightbot do some rolling here. And of course, Nightbot didn't refresh for me, so it's going to take just a moment. So I do apologize about that. All right, here we go. So Devin0810, congratulations. You have won. What were we giving away again?
Fuel.
The fuel, yeah, 6-pack of fuel. So we're going to have that shipped to you from Andy Mark. Congratulations to Devin0810. Please send me a message on Twitch so we can get that. So just DM me on Twitch at First Updates Now, and then we'll get that sent out to you. We'll need your mailing address as well for that too. So congratulations. Let's keep moving on.
Congratulations, Devin. All right, so Ryan, thanks for being our guest. So you get all the first cracks at all of our questions. So
yeah, we're really putting them on the spot here. People are going to stop being guests.
We did. So now that you've had some time to digest FIRST Steamworks, what do you think will be the most common strategy we'll see amongst teams?
So most common strategy, after we did our kind of initial game analysis, we kind of came to the same conclusion that you guys were talking about with the gears, that there's a lot of value there, especially in eliminations, right? So everyone's goal, they want to play on Saturday afternoon, usually. And
should be.
Yeah. So, how could a team maybe contribute the most to an alliance and make that more of a common strategy? My opinion, working on gears, maybe focusing solely on gears. And contributing to an alliance score that way. You could deliver 3 gears in a match and put up 80 points for an alliance's score, or if you do one in autonomous, 100 points. So there's a lot of value there. And I just think, a lot of teams have shot balls in the past, and maybe that the gear might be a little more challenging, but at the same time, I think there may be less rush to have to, especially early on, kind of fly across the field. If you only get 3 in a match, that's still pretty good.
Yeah, because with 3, you're activating 2 of the rotors, right?
Right.
So, yeah, from a common trade, I agree. I think gears are going to be a really big thing, and probably the most common thing done amongst teams. And who knows? It could end up being a little bit different. One of the things I'll say, I think the climb is going to be difficult for teams, especially in the introductory levels, because just getting something lined up that far away, I think is going to be a difficult task, especially if you don't have a way to get like an instant lock on or something like that. If you're trying to you need the maneuver to do it, I don't think that's going to be very successful. So I think we're going to see that be a very common strategy of going for the rope at the end. However, I don't know how successful it's going to be. So I agree. The gears are going to be huge for that, just because the initial return, it has diminishing value as you get further and further, but the initial return on your investment again, the gears, is absolutely just huge.
Yeah. And, people know that in the past, Mike and I have really hit hard, build within your means, find something, realistically evaluate what your team is capable of, and really try to do something that is within your team's ability. But I really have to echo what Ryan said. You have to find a way to contribute still to your alliance, and based on what we talked about earlier and my understanding of the rules, I think that the 18-inch logo on the boiler is tempting for teams because, you can hit the little hopper and get 50 balls and just shuttle them over there and put them in the logo, but you're not contributing a whole lot. Even though it might be a really, in the past, it might be like, that's a great thing for, maybe a low resource team to focus on. But I have to, just put more power to what Ryan said. Focus on the gears, because that is real value, and it just drastically increases your ability to play on Saturday afternoon, because the logo, I don't think, is going to cut it.
Interesting. We've taken much stock in Karthik's presentation about this stuff, and you have already mentioned it, building within your means. So I'm afraid we might see kind of jack of all trades, but master of none, where teams are doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but nothing great. So find whatever that is, do it really well, and then you'll be in good shape. Now, whether that is, I don't know, whatever that is, just go and do it. But I'm interesting to see I'm not going to speak more to it because I haven't read the rules yet, but there's a lot to it here. So finding whatever that is and doing it well would be great.
Mike brings in the freshman perspective for us, right?
Right. Yeah. Without reading. Yeah, we've all been.
Yeah. So there was a question on Twitch that I want to ask that scroll by. If you guys do have questions, just put at first updates now, and we'll get to those for you at the end of the show. But since this was kind of relevant to the gears, are we going to see teams picking up gears from the floor? Because you'd think about in 2013 with the Frisbees, you could get them from the loading stations, but there's a decent amount on the floor. Are we going to see that similar situation where gears picking up from the floor is valuable?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I'm in a delicate spot because as a team that's trying to be competitive, I don't want to give away too much, but yes, I don't think gears off the floor like Frisbees off the floor. But I do think, high-level teams will definitely be able to pick up a gear off the floor.
Ryan, how about you?
Yeah, I think so. You can go to the slot and get it. I think there's always a risk that you miss placement, right? Or you don't score it, and to be able to recover and try again without having to go all the way across the field would be pretty big.
How many extra gears are in the Alliance station?
I was going to ask that.
18.
Yeah.
18.
So there's 6 extra. What is it? How many gears do you need for all 4 rotors?
12.
Yeah. So, So I will point, and I know maybe 2013 is not the best analogy, but in 2013, the teams that ended up being the world champions were mostly loaders, right? They did not pick up from the floor. So in my opinion, somebody posted it. I think it was Gavin posted, or Sir Griffin posted that it does complicate potentially a simple mechanism for something like that. And I do tend to agree with that. It depends what kind of team you are and what you're looking for your means. I think in many cases there might be a lot of time wasted trying to pick that gear up off the ground.
Yeah, certainly.
I mean, that's kind of my gut instinct from the outside looking in. Is I might have to disagree with you, Justin, on that. That if you're going to be successful at placing gears, you should not be misplacing them very often, if at all. So I think if you drop it, then I think you have to reset and go get a new one. But we'll see how it plays out. Disagree with you, Justin, on that.
There's also the potential to maybe steal one away from your opponent's area if no one's there, and for some reason it's hanging out on the ground. Yeah. So,
alrighty, let's move on here. All of us are veterans of FRC teams, so I got to ask each and every one of you before we move on to a couple of different things. What advice do you have for teams over? It's a long build season. All of us are veterans of multiple years from teams, so just kind of want to go around the horn. If you had to give just a short, simplified advice, and a couple of you already mentioned what you're probably going to say, but let's just kind of reiterate what advice you'd give to the teams to help them be successful.
I'll start. These first few days are the biggest days of the entire season. I think Justin has said that before. But if you need to spend an extra day talking with your team about what your strategy is and what you're going to do, like, it's worth it now than to make the wrong decision. So make sure you read the rules, you understand them correctly, you have people are on board with your strategy going forward, and then run with it. Make sure you have the right strategy and then go. Don't try to rush the prototyping, don't try to rush the building if you're not quite there yet. Don't drag your feet. But if you need to spend a little extra time making sure you're there, then that's where I think that's key.
I can go next. I'm going to take the teacher perspective on it, and students that are listening and mentors who have to, who work with students can also pass this along. But just make sure you find time to keep up with your homework and keep up with your schoolwork. I think creativity and good ideas can only come from a clear and open mind that's focused on a task. And when you have been putting off that 8-page English paper for 2, 3, 4 days or weeks, I don't think you're going to come up with any good ideas with that kind of stuff weighing on your brain. So if you have to skip a meeting, take a day off to make sure your schoolwork is caught up so you can come to the meeting refreshed and ready to focus on robotics. I think that will help create a much less stressful build season for you and any team members that are counting on you.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, so I would just say before you 100% commit to a specific strategy or design, make sure you do some prototyping and actually validate, especially here in the first week or two. Just really try and flesh out your ideas, and just don't commit 100% until you think you have something that's actually going to work.
Yeah, I have to mirror Ryan's comments a little bit. When I was much more active on Wave, one of the things I think that we fell flat on a little bit was the prototyping phase and getting on. And I think about Theory 6 from last year and the what they published and looking at what they were looking at. Or you think about 254 where they had in 2014 that plywood type robot they put together, right? Those are things that like you if you're going to prototype, find ways to do it efficiently and effectively so you can make that decision. Are we going to do this or are we not going to do this? And you got to move on from that. The kind of almost on the opposite side of what Ryan said too for a moment, you can get into analysis paralysis a lot too. And there can be a lot of cooks in the kitchen and you need to figure out a way as a team to move past that. And the way you do that is by doing effective prototyping. So it's not a subjective thing of what you're going to do. You find the most objective reasoning to move forward with something. And I think coming together and figuring out that prototyping, those aspects and those steps, and hopefully as you guys, we're on day 2 right now, prototyping should be happening this week. I mean, you should be starting to get, even if it's a cardboard cutout of something, like the RA3D team here in Toomey, Indiana, they started with a cardboard cutout for something, and that was their gear collection mechanism, was doing a cardboard cutout, and then they went to the next phase of doing some polycarb, and now they're going to the next phase for that. So think about the steps that you have to do as you move forward on that.
That's a really good point, Tyler. I mean, even look at 254 as like what we all thought was a parody video back in 2014.
2014, yeah.
Yeah, where that robot played a lot better than most other teams like that played that game, out of wood. So
I'd have killed for that robot.
I know, exactly, right? So you just make it effective, make it good, and sell your point. Did you want to say something, Justin?
I'll just echo what Tyler said. I think it's important to prototype, and even game tests that are difficult to seemingly prototype. For example, 2013, when I was with Team 340, we had a robot that climbed the pyramid pretty well. Arguably one of the hardest tasks that's ever been asked of a FIRST Robotics competition team. And the original prototype was out of cardboard, and it really sold the concept really well, and we just scaled it up from there. So really focus on your prototyping, and that'll certainly pay dividends in the end.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so moving on. So let's talk a little bit about drivetrains. We've seen different field surfaces. We've seen different environments, different openness of fields in the past few years. So this year the field is pretty open, and there are some interesting choices to make, but also possibly some sacrifices to consider as well. So do you think we'll see a wide mix of drivetrains, or will it be pretty common? Starting with Ryan, of course.
I think you will see a lot of 6-wheel, 8-wheel drives, tank style. Just because if teams have evaluated it, they're going to see there's a lot of opportunity for playing defense or being defended against. And I don't think this is the game for McCann. Having been on 357, it's probably illegal to say
Better than
that,
last year, though, from
yeah, and that you're probably going to see some swerve. It seems like it's a pretty flat field this year, but definitely don't dismiss the kit of parts drive if you're even a medium resource team. Like we used it last year, and we put some 8-inch wheels in it, and it was fantastic. The Versa chassis from Vex is really good too. So don't dismiss the kind of COTS drivetrain solutions if you're early here, just kind of seeing what's out there. There's some really good stuff that you can go take a look at.
Yeah, certainly. I think that in a game like this, especially where we've been asked to climb a rope, which we've never been asked to do before, we've been asked to shoot a wiffle ball, which we've never been asked to do before, and picking and placing that gear, you have 3 distinct tasks. If you are, like you just said, if you're a medium resource team, even if you're a high resource team, you have a lot of other stuff to be focused on. There's no reason you have to overcomplicate your drivetrain when you have all these great COTS options. I think old guys like us, right? I was around for the first kit of parts drivetrains that were not great. You're a little jaded against them, maybe. They've gotten so much better. It is not a bad. It's not a bad option, especially when we have so much other new stuff in this game that you have to focus on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely, Justin. I think you nailed it on the head there. Is from drivetrains wise, there are going to be teams that do complicated drives. There are going to be teams that do swerve drives, and it will be some of the most beautiful things you ever seen and remind you of 1717 from that back in the day. But I agree. I think overall, if you look at like Stronghold last year, yes, there were a few teams that did swerve drive, but in many cases, a 6 or 8 wheel tank West Coast drive served you pretty well. And I think we'll see something pretty similar here. Now, there are a few more turns you have to make this year in regards to lining up for delivering that gear or lining up against the Alliance Station wall for collection. Or even getting the rope, really, right? If you don't have a good mechanism for getting the rope, you might need a little bit more holonomic versatility when it comes to your drivetrain. But if I'm going to look at this and realize I'm not directly active on a team this year, so I have no say in what like Wave Robotics is doing or anything like that. But looking at it, to me, a 6-wheel West Coast or an 8-wheel West Coast to me is the way to go. And I would rather save that weight and use it for other mechanisms on my robot.
Interesting. I mean, to kind of full circle this whole thing that I've been talking about, like when you have Justin, that was a great analogy, man. Like when you have so many robot points, as Karthik puts it, go to something that that works, whether that's your own system that you've been using, or use a kit of parts. Like I don't think this game quantifies reinventing the wheel. Like no pun intended. But go with something just like decide on that, make that your easy choice of the season, and then spend some quality time tackling these other 3 interesting hard things to do. If you're doing it.
I think the thing that teams do need to spend some time on is open up the JVN spreadsheet and play with your gear ratios, because it is a pretty wide open field, and having some speed is definitely going to be a priority, kind of depending on what your strategy is. But you don't want to be slow out there, regardless of what you're doing this year.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else to talk about before we start moving on in regards to wrapping up initial analysis of, I almost said Stronghold, initial analysis of Steamworks?
I'll just add again that, at least from my perspective, on Team 3015, we've had a Slack going nonstop today that every time I put down for 5 minutes, I pull it back up and there's 50 unread notifications. The students in our team are really, really excited. We've had great strategy discussions, and if you're not using Slack on your team, I just can't recommend it enough. It's a great resource to constantly be pinging ideas off of one another and just keeping in communications, because as a team, we're not allowed to meet at our school on Sundays. The school is closed, so it keeps everyone in the loop and keeps the brains working, and it's a great resource for us.
Anybody else?
I'm good.
I'm calling it now during the elims. Someone's gonna drop a gear out of their airship, and then they're gonna lose a match because of
Ryan,
it.
no. I was just talking about that tonight.
That's a bold prediction that we can reiterate a little bit later too.
There you go.
You know what? It's funny you say that because when I first saw the reserve gear, that's what I thought it was for. The poor human player who picks it up, goes to put it, and just loses it. The reserve gear. Oh, thank God.
Oh,
There we
it's
go.
going to
Now I
happen.
can start. It is going to happen. Imagine 5, 4. You're on Einstein. 3. You got to get. Oh no. I have no. I feel bad for pilots already.
Yeah, right. That's a high risk, low reward role really to be in, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's
All
like
right.
the kicker on the football team.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. No kidding. All right, so we're gonna do some predictions a little bit later too, as we mentioned, and talk about what we believe Einstein level teams will be doing for strategy a bit later. But as we get into here, as I mentioned, I'm here for the Robot in 3 Days Team Indiana here at Kokomo, and hopefully you got to see the tour of the AndyMark video earlier. But there is also a team here. We have Team 3940 Cybertooth that works out of the AndyMark facilities, and I had the opportunity to interview a couple of the lead students on that team. So let's take a look.
Hey, Fun Nation, it's Tyler once again here at AndyMark. Not only are we here for the Robot in 3 Days, but this is also the home of Cybertooth. So I have Tori and Gus here today. We want to ask them just a few questions, get the perspective about robotics team to see what they thought about Steamworks. So, Tori, what are your first impressions of FRC Steamworks?
It seems really fun. There's a lot of things that are similar between this and last year's game, and I'm looking forward to that because I really liked last year.
So what seems similar to you that you really liked?
Sort of going at the end towards the ropes reminds me a lot of capturing at the end, and I like the ranking point system a lot.
So Gus, on the Steamworks game, when he saw it and it came out, we all know we always get those designs in our head right away of what a robot's going to be. So what popped into your head? Like right away, you're like, we got to do something like this for a robot.
I was definitely thinking that we should get the gears in place. That was my big strategy that I was thinking, just because you can get like upwards of 140 points just by getting all the gears.
So Tori, tell me a little bit about your strategy process, because we know good teams, they don't just start building a robot right away, right? It takes a little bit of time. You got to think things through. So right after the game was released, what happened on Cybertooth? Take me through a little bit of time on that.
So right after we saw what the game was, we divided into 3 groups and we read every line of the game manual, which was super exciting.
Every line?
Yes, almost. And then on Monday, we're all going to meet together again for a 4-hour-long strategy session and try and prioritize what we want to do this year.
So Gus, you guys are taking Sunday off. So between now and Monday, what kind of goals do you give to the other students on your team? What are they thinking about when they come in fresh on Monday?
Well, first off, we have our students read through the robot rules that we skipped over in the game manual while we were discussing everything today. Also, myself and a couple other students are creating equations to figure out how fast we can do match cycles and that kind of thing, and just figure out if our ideas are plausible with the time constraints of the match.
So as we look into the future with this team, so we're going 6 weeks down the road when that robot needs to be in the bag, it needs to be ready to go. Not where do you guys want to be? Because we know you want a complete robot, right? But what is it to you, like, what do you want to accomplish in those 6.5 weeks, and not just a robot, but as a team?
I definitely think we want to come up with good ideas and guarantee that everyone on the team learns skills that they can use later on in life, not just building a robot, but building skills they can use to last a lifetime.
How about yourself?
My biggest priority for this build season is really actually to get a practice bot as well as our extra robot. Like, really come together as a team and be able to do that, because I think it'll really increase cohesiveness on the team and help us work together more.
So what about having a practice robot? What kind of competitive advantage do you think that will give you in the competition season?
Well, I think it'll get us a lot more practice for our drivers, because last year we feel as if we had more practice, we would have made it to World Champs. So we're just a little bit off. So this year we're hoping that we can get that little bit more practice in and make it.
So in Indiana, we have the district system here, and that's an area that's starting to be embraced more and more. But one thing in Indiana, though, is you guys from a team base are a little bit smaller versus some of the other states there, and I think it's something good for other states to emulate. Talking to you, Wisconsin, what is it about the district system? Like, what do you think you get the most out of it? What does your team get most out of the district system?
I really like being able to interact with other teams and competing with them week after week. You get to know the other robots and get to know kids on the other teams, and it's really fun.
So as we kind of wrap up here, and you guys, you have a robot right behind you from last year. When you look at last year's robot and not just the way it performed, but how it was, what kind of improvements do you want to take from last year? What did you learn from last year that you want to take into the 2017 season?
I think we learned last year that a robust control system was definitely necessary, and that really helped us out because we didn't have any problems with any of our control systems, and so really we only had to fix the really damaged stuff rather than having to open up all of our wire wrap and all that. So like carry that with us into this next season, make sure everything stays strong and won't break throughout the matches.
So we know that you've already embraced the steampunk culture a little bit going on here. Gus, when are we going to see you in a full dapper outfit going on?
Oh, well, we're at week 1 event here in Indiana, and that I'll definitely be suited up then.
Well, best of luck to both of you, and best of luck to the Cybertooth, and best of luck to all teams here in 2017. Thanks, guys.
All right, so before we do move on to predictions and taking your questions, many of you know that AnyMark is a huge supporter of First Updates now. We're going to be giving actually another giveaway soon too, so make sure you put in the game manual code that will get you extra chances to win. So start putting that in chat right now. But I figured since we're here at AnyMark that I'd actually grab a bona fide employee and bona fide Canadian too. So a little bit of both here. So we got a new
great guy.
Yeah, bona fide great guy. Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, so so Nick here, we got a new product actually at AnyMark going on right now that you guys can check out. So I figured I'd bring on Nick. He actually helped design that product.
Right, yeah.
So go ahead, man. Talk about it.
So, hi, I'm Nik Lawrence. I work here as a mechanical systems designer here at AnyMark. I was also the project lead on this new product called the Evo Shifter. So the last time that AnyMark came out with a major redesign of shifting transmissions for FRC was 2013. We decided this past summer it was time to clean sheet our shifting transmissions, and we came up with what eventually became the Evo Shifter. Now, I'm not going to go through all 14 improvements. There's 14 major improvements, but I'm going to go through a couple of the big key ones. And the first one would be this new shift block here. Our previous design used a small bearing inside this block here that over a course of a couple seasons would blow up and would fail, and it was held in with an E-clip. So this is a new shift block design with an all-steel body, so you won't wear out those threads when you attach a cylinder to it. It uses a bigger bearing, and it uses a screw to retain it, so it's actually a lot more rigid inside and a lot less floppy than the old one. The second is the new 4-tooth Amco 18 bronze dog. It's new, the fact that it's a new material, but also it's a new tooth profile. Our previous designs were a 3-tooth, equally spread 60 degrees apart, dog style, and the biggest reason why we went to a 4-tooth is it allows us to have a thick section a thick section for the shift screw to actually interface with, allowing us to use a bigger screw. We now use a 1/8 shoulder screw inside of this transmission instead of the 440 screws, so you can actually shift it pressures all the way up to 60 psi for a whole season, and you're not going to break that screw. And finally, the biggest other hallmark feature is all the weight relief we've done. Is even this large 85 tooth gear, which makes up the first cluster in every single Evo shifter, has weight relief features on both sides. The dog gears have weight relief features wherever possible, and as well as any other cluster gears have weight relief features wherever possible, meaning that we can actually advertise that the shifter starts at 2.9 pounds.
Wow.
And finally, the big, super great feature is that the shifters are highly, highly configurable. There's actually 721 unique options for the Evo shifter, for number of motors, for which output shaft you have, and for what your shifting spreads are. We have 6 pairs of shifting ratios and a couple other third stage options you can add on. To give you 18 unique ratios, and the best part about that is those shift pairs are interchangeable. In previous designs, you were limited to like a 4-to-1 or 256-to-1 spread. This one, you can pick whatever you want as your high gear from the available options, whatever you want as your low gear from the available options. So we've built a super highly configurable transmission, and we hope teams like it.
Awesome. Thanks,
Awesome,
Nick, for
man.
coming in. Tell
Thank
us a
you,
little
buddy.
about the new AndyMark Evo shifter product. So,
Thanks for having me, Tyler.
yeah, appreciate it. And good luck. So Nick's part of the I was going to say Bill Blitz, the Robot in 3 Days Team Indiana team as well. So if you haven't seen him so far, make sure you come and check that out later on. But how do you feel you guys are doing so far?
I think it's going well. I mean, they mentioned earlier in the recap that it looks like progress is slow, but a lot of things have been happening behind the scenes, a lot of CAD work, a lot of prepping to manufacture. I'm looking forward to see the robot basically explode upwards in the next few hours.
All right. We'll take a look back with that. Thanks again, Nick. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate it.
So with that said, we are going to be doing a giveaway coming in. So thanks again, by the way, to AndyMark. And AndyMark's providing all these giveaways too. So we want to make sure they get their due diligence time on here, just because they're giving away all this awesome product to you guys. So let's go ahead and let's see here. Mike, do you want to give away the gear or the T-shirt?
Let's do the gear.
Gear. All right. So if your name does pop up, make sure, and you have to get both halves, by the way.
Yeah, if my students are out there, hopefully we win this because we're hurting.
Awesome. And if you do win, make sure you do send at First Updates Now a private message on Twitch with your name and address. And if you can just put "I won the gear," that helps me keep track when we get to all that as well. Don't say I won the 800 pieces. So, what were you saying, Mike?
Can I just message you now and say, how do you get out the imposters?
Because it will directly tell me who it was on here. So, all right, let's do it. So we're going to roll for it. And the winner is X-War Panda. Congratulations. So you're going to get the gear. Go ahead and shoot that over, your information over to at First Updates Now. And congratulations once again. And thanks to AndyMark for doing the giveaway. So what's up next on the docket?
So I think it's time we have to talk about some high-level play. Right? I know it's early in the season, but we still want to have that long game look. So specifically, how matches are going to be played out at the highest level. So Ryan, walk us through what you think the strategy of a high-functioning alliance would look like for FIRST Steamworks.
So, come elimination rounds, you're in the finals or something. You got your dream alliance put together, right? I think you're going to have teams that are scoring over 100 fuel balls in a match accurately up in the high goal. I think you're going to have alliances total probably pushing over 300 fuel. And, some of them might have two robots that focus on going and grabbing the gears. You might have all three. That 100-point bonus is pretty attractive, I think, to a lot of teams.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're going to have something like that where you kind of have maybe all three teams or two of the three teams focusing on the gears, and then everyone kind of contributing to fuel. And then you just never know. You might have two of the three that can climb that rope at the end, and that would be pretty high functioning, I think.
Yeah.
So I think you'll see high-functioning teams really do damage to that KPA, right? In autonomous, maybe all three shooting all 10 balls in, only having to then, at that point, do 30 balls from that point, 30 remaining to get to that level. So a lot of action in auto doing that, and possibly maybe even delivering a gear up and in, whether from the same team that does 10 in the high, or maybe from a separate team, but a well-functioning, well-complementing team, I think is what will win it. Whether we see all three teams doing all those things well, or kind of maybe the responsibilities are divided up a little bit, time will tell. But that's it.
So here's kind of the way I look at it. From a high functioning level play, you're typically, if you're a high seed alliance, you're going to have yourself and your main alliance partner be very high functioning, right? So in my opinion, what that entails is I do see those robots practically doing pretty much everything, at least have the ability to do everything. If we're talking Einstein, right? We're talking cream of the crop, the best of the best that rises up there. Those teams are going to have the capabilities of doing what needs to be done. So from a ball standpoint, I think the interesting thing is that from the balls is once you get to the KPA, there is really no use of putting more balls in for the most part, right? Your return is not really worth it. And even from the 20 points perspective. So team alliances, as I see the way that they evolve, is that I would think that they would almost always get the gears first. You get the auto for the fuel, you get the KPA for that because you're not going to need to put in that many more, as Mike said. So you're going to see a lot just running towards the gears. I also think, too, with that third robot, from an alliance perspective, I really actually think defense is going to be huge this year. I really see that coming into play. Last year, it was effective in many cases, but it wasn't necessary for something like that. I really do see the third robot this year spending a lot of time trying to prevent either gear runs or from shooting the balls, just because I think at that level, yeah, maybe that robot is able to do a decent amount of gears, or yeah, that robot's able to put in a decent amount of fuel, but to the amount of effectiveness against playing defense, I'm not sure if we're going to see that robot actively doing much past autonomous other than playing some tough D. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're talking about now is what every team is trying to figure out, and you're absolutely right about the balls. I think that the diminishing returns after you get the 40 KPA is significant. But we've been having a lot of discussions in our team, at least, about what happens, like where's the true differences going to be made. We think that as far as the number of gears are either scored or they're not. So if you can agree that maybe 2 gears is going to be very common, maybe 3 gears is going to be almost uncommon, then the gear points really aren't going to make a huge difference in most matches, because most lancers are going to be able to get 2. So in most matches, that's not going to be the difference.
Are you saying the gears themselves or full rotor scores? I'm sorry.
Rotors, I'm sorry. You're right. Rotors. So it's getting 2 rotors spinning, pretty easy to do. 3 rotors, the difficulty goes up quite a bit. So if you agree that most matches are going to see 2 rotors spinning, that's not the difference maker. So that's where the ball scoring, even though you have to get that 40 KPA, maybe as far as the ranking points are concerned, it's not much more valuable. But for the 2 ranking points for winning the match, the ball scoring does retain a little bit of value. And then the climbing at the end, of course, I think is also going to be a huge thing. If you're the only robot on the field that can climb, your alliance has a really, really high chance of winning, because I don't think the gears are going to make a huge difference, and you're not going to score enough balls to overcome 50 points.
Yeah, that's insane amount. Go ahead.
I'd disagree a little bit. I mean, I think there's going to be a regional where it's won by an alliance that fills up the whole airship with gears, and maybe that's all they do. It's going to be like the triple balance in 2012. There were a couple of regionals, I think, that were won just on that, because it's hard to overcome, especially if you get that gear in autonomous. You get the 40, you get the 160 points basically from your rotors, plus the 100-point bonus. In addition to that, you're pushing 300 just on gears.
Right. And I completely agree. And I guess my point was that I think in most matches, especially at the highest level, right, Einstein finals, I think, if that's your argument, I think both alliances will probably be able to get all 4 rotors spinning. So then it does come back to ball scoring again. Even though the points aren't there, it's the only place that you can really start to really make a difference in the score, because there's not a varying level of points for the gears. It's either kind of all or nothing.
Right.
So you guys kind of see in the gameplay going high goal boiler shots in auto, shifting to gears and teleop, back to balls if they remain, and then climbing at the end. Is that kind of how you see gameplay going?
Yeah, that's how I saw it playing out.
Yep, 100%.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think you have to get that highest amount of points right away, right? That the importance of that is you have to be able to secure the most amount of points you can, and then you can worry about those secondary objectives afterwards.
Yep.
Question for you, and because I totally forget this, the ropes for climbing, when do those deploy?
The last 30 seconds.
30 seconds. So how much time will teams need to spend to align themselves or to get ready for the climb itself? Because you can't really use gas shocks this year, can you? You can't be doing anything passive after. Maybe you can. Maybe I'm just not thinking about it. But you got to get up there and you got to trigger that, right?
I haven't read the rules specifically about the rules as far as dropping rope, like what the human player is allowed to do. But I wonder if you're able to so if you're going to see human players, instead of the robot grabbing the rope, if you could have the human player drop the rope to the robot in a specific location. But I haven't just lift this trap. Okay, that's what I thought. So if you can just lift this trap, I think you are going to see teams that that struggle a little bit. But I don't know. I'm interested to see what this bringing your own rope concept, how that plays into this as well.
Ryan, what do you think?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the
Oh, no,
fact that
go
you
ahead,
can
Matt.
bring your own rope, I think that makes it a little easier. I'm glad that First did that actually, because you have some kind of known variable, hopefully. But there's talk of like teams putting Velcro on like a 1-inch ratchet strap kind of thing and using that as their rope. I don't know if that's legal.
You know,
I saw that for
Pine
about
Tar
3 days. It
one,
worked
right?
really well.
Yeah.
I was surprised.
What are the rules on bringing your own rope? BYOR.
Yeah, you have to get it inspected.
Yeah.
What are the
you have to clear
stipulations
it.
on? It can be anything.
No,
There's some specifications in the manual on what it has to be.
Because I kind of asked because I saw Greg Nadell's post about with the chain. So is that like is the chain legal then?
I don't think so.
Is that just more of a joke?
Yeah, I mean technically it's legal. If you because his argument was, well, the plastic chain's twisted nylons, so it follows the twisted aspect of the regulations that's laid out in the rope, but I don't think that's gonna slide. But what I'm really excited about and why we'll probably end up bringing our rope for each match is because if you bring your own rope, you don't have to dislodge the rope from your robot. You can just lift the robot up, take the rope, and go back to your pit and take the rope out later. If you don't do that, you have to figure out a way to unwind or untangle the rope from your robot before you get off the field, and we probably just won't want to deal with that headache. And it makes it easier, I think, from a design perspective, just to wrap the thing up, and then we'll deal with it when we get back to our pit.
That's really interesting. Oh, Nick's got this here. I was looking for it, Nick. Thanks.
All right, so we have we got to make up some predictions here too before we start moving on. So I'll ask you guys things some in chat. If you have some questions too, just type it in, and if you don't mind just putting at first updates now, I'd appreciate it so I can see that what predictions we're going to do. But here's the first one for you. At what week will we start seeing over 25% of the matches where we have 4 ranking point matches and quals?
At what week will we see over 25%?
Over 25?
Yeah.
Never.
Will it ever happen?
I'd say never.
No, absolutely not. Never. Yeah, never.
Oh.
I've been wrong before, but it's freaking hard.
What about at like MSC or something like that? You know, like we'll see it there.
25. I think you'll see it in 25% of the matches at MSC. No, I don't think so. I've been wrong before.
I would be surprised.
So the questions somebody asked, what kind of scores we've seen elims? So let's kind of quantify that. Here you guys. So elims at regionals, what are we expecting? Like, what is your high score this year at regionals or at districts for elims? Well, it doesn't matter because elims will have higher.
I'm going to defer because I don't know enough about the points yet.
We got to do some math.
I'm thinking you could see some scores pushing 400.
Yeah, I was going to say 400, maybe 450, but that'd be pretty impressive.
Well, so if we look at the math on it from an autonomous perspective, all 3 gears are delivered in autonomous. That's 2 rotors, right? So it's 120 points for that. Am I doing math correctly?
Yes.
Yep.
I think that's right. So if you get that, so I don't think we'll see all 3 gears and all 10 balls scored. I could be wrong. I would be very impressed if that happened. That'd be awesome. So in that case, plus if you have some robots crossing the line, so maybe from autonomous you're gonna be at like 130 or something like that, right? And then you have 2 more rotors that would be worth 40 points each. So what is that, 210, something like that? And then you have, and then the rotor bonus is then 310. And then how much can you score off of the balls and the climbing? So climbing is 150. So what, 460, and then balls. I think we'll see a 500-point match. In
really,
I think at MSC we'll see it happen.
I think if you get three scales, 500 is possible, but with like no defense at all.
But that's I mean, I know, and I'm going to retract back on myself, and I know I said we're going to see defense. It is entirely plausible in a quarterfinal or something that we saw it last year where there was just no defense and something like that, and you just had a team just totally rack up those points. So, I got somebody said on here too. I just got this isn't prediction, but I know we talked that FIRST is play tested, but I'm going to be honest with you. We had Frank on a show, and he said, we only play test to a certain extent. We don't know for certain things. Opinion time, yes or no? Should the bonus for doing the KPA be the same as the bonus for engaging all the rotors?
No.
Yes.
I'd say
This is the guy who knows the list.
I think yes. No, I think yes as well. Like I don't know why one is worth more than the other. Like that doesn't make sense to me. I don't know if one of you guys maybe can explain your thought process on why that would be.
I think the gears are. I think one team will be able to get the KPA bonus on their own. I don't think that one team will be able to get the gear bonus by themselves. I think it's more of a teamwork kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the challenge comes in.
Well, at minimum, you need 10 in the or 30 in the high goal and auto, and then another 30, right, in teleop. That's incredibly hard, in my opinion. So for one team to do that, that's 10 in auto plus a lot more in teleop. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, so if you had like the 2012 thing where a robot, fed a better shooter, so maybe they get half of them in auto, and then spend the rest of the match kind of getting those. I think we'll definitely see some powerhouse teams getting the KPAs on their own, no problem.
Yeah.
So one thing I think about, by the way, in regards to that sort or that type of scoring is, I don't remember the game name, but last year's Vex IQ game. I don't know, Ryan or Justin or Mike, if you remember the name of that. But
Which one?
Last year's Vex IQ game. I forget what it was.
Yeah.
But
no, I know what you're talking about. Though.
Yeah, and last year's Vex IQ game, in regards to the shooting aspect of it, you had the top teams, in my opinion, where there were some teams from China that all built the same Vex IQ robot, and literally what they did is they had these they were balls about this big or so, and they would fall into their hopper and they would alternate shots and just go poof, 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 but they'd have like 5 sets of these. And if you think about, I know there's a maximum flow rate in regards to what the boiler can process. Thank you, nothing but net, by the way, Augusta said. But I think you can see something similar to that, where that, to me, that's where I would draw off of how that strategy plays out in regards to putting the balls in. It's going to be something similar to that, and I think it's going to be difficult in regards to teams shooting at the same time and taking their turns, kind of like in 2006.
Yeah. I watched those. Not to interrupt the flow of discussion, but I watched those matches today, the Einstein matches from 06. Those are some incredible matches. They were really good. I hope that we get some of Thunder Chickens 25. They were great matches.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 25, yeah. I remember hitting them their first loss of the season that year.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Will all 3 Einstein champion robots have the ability to climb?
Nope.
Yes.
I'd say two of the 3 at a minimum.
Yeah.
That's true. Especially with 2 champs, there's more teams there. So yes, 2 out of 3.
I
didn't qualify which Einstein champs.
Look at
which division you're in.
Last year, I think you would have said, everyone's going to scale. Nope. Our alliance only had one. I think that I don't remember, the other alliance only had one, I think, or maybe two. Certainly not three. So.
And I think the question comes down to is, I mean, once again, what's your third robot look like? And the other thing would be is it worth it enough to get? Was it 50 points for scaling, right?
Yeah.
Is it fully worth it? I think the answer is going to be to a lot of teams, yes. But I'm still questioning if we're gonna see something like that. I think of a little bit, and I know there was only 2 on there in 2011 when you had the mini bots. I know only 2 of the robots could deploy, but that other one robot had to do something, and typically that was the one who had the worst mini bot. So if you look at the one who has the climber that's not available, that robot went and just played some. If they were good, they played some tough defense against the other robots deploying, and trying to box them off from getting into that area where they need to deploy as well.
I just don't like thinking about defense. I just hate defense. I really do. I just want to see the game get played.
So you were a big
offense,
Recycle Rush fan.
I was. I really was.
Oh.
Yep.
I actually didn't know that. Now I know. I don't know anymore.
I'm a big fan of 04 as well, if that helps.
Of 04? Yes, that's all right. You get some bonus points for something like that. So, all right. Those were kind of the couple of main questions. I was hoping chat would have a couple there, so we'll give that just a little bit of chat. If you have any more prediction questions you want to get from us, do add first updates now. I don't know. Do you guys have any off the top of your head?
Questions?
Yeah, prediction.
I'm laughing at Nick right now. He's what he's putting in the chat. He's just saying about how 150 points is 450 balls in the high goal or 1,350 in the low.
That's funny. I know this doesn't help, but I had a really good question. Now I forgot it. Darn it.
Sorry.
I think my next, I think getting your head wrapped around the point value of everything and seeing what's worth it and and this has been great discussion about what is worth it compared to doing something else. And I think that's going to be where it's won and lost is discussions like what we're having right now.
I'm really excited to see how the game evolves. Just like last year, we had some great discussions of, like I kind of mentioned earlier, right? High goal wasn't really a thing so much in the early regionals. So I think that might be like gears will kind of be the main dominator because that's kind of an easier task, I think. And then all of a sudden the balls will kind of have a bigger say. So I'm really interested to see how this game evolves between now and 2 champs.
So I do have an opinion to ask you guys, and Justin, this might hit home with you just a little bit. Rule T16, have you read that?
It was just pointed out to me not 30 minutes ago.
So during Einstein finals, if the match score of each alliance is equal, the match will be replayed.
With an exclamation point. They're very excited about that.
I think it's a period. No.
Yeah, whatever.
So, but let me ask you: Are we gonna see any ties when they come? Like, in my opinion, there's so many different.
No,
I don't think we're gonna. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna see ties. There's
at the higher level. The lower level,
maybe, I don't know. Actually, at the lower level, we might, because it might be 0-0. But
exactly.
I think you're right. I think at the lower level there will be a lot of ties because, like I said, it's tough to get ahead when everyone's doing 2 rotors. So I think you will see a lot of ties.
How many balls will the best shooters be able to shoot in one cycle? How many pieces of fuel
in one cycle? Like, what's the max? What's the max they can hold? And then shoot.
Yeah. Let's rephrase. In a match, how many balls in a match can a robot? I mean, will it just be nonstop? Like literally, just the boiler's trying to process the entire match.
Well, if you had teams that could complement each other and make a team that can go get some, and then like we had mentioned, you can sit in one position and be dumped into, you have the potential of in the hundreds, if not more. I don't know.
All right. I think we're getting at the point anyways. We do have to do another check-in soon with our Robot in 3 Days team. So I think we're getting to the point where we need to end. But we do have another giveaway to do in just a moment. So with that said, kind of wrapping up here, any last things you guys want to talk about in regards to Steamworks?
Not particularly. I just want to echo again that I'm excited about the game, and if you're kind of anti it, maybe because the theme is a little heavy or whatever, I think you should just give it a chance. First has given us a great game, I think. A lot of cool stuff to do, a lot of great designs that I think we're going to see. So I'm excited, and I really can't wait to see what teams come up with this year, and be thinking about premiere night.
Ah, yeah,
that's right. We're doing that again this year, right?
Yes, yes,
absolutely.
So,
awesome.
Justin, well said. Something we kind of didn't mention that was totally different. Nothing will ever replace the Dave Lavery animation and narration, but the animation this year was pretty cool. I think it was well done, very high definition or whatever.
Yeah, it was well done.
Yeah, I think it was really. I think that part was cool, but so far I don't think the theme has gone too far over. We talked about that in our last recap right before. So I think that's good, but we'll see how it goes. But I'm excited to see what teams come up with this year. I don't in the second year in a row or third year, I don't really have a team that I'm calling my own. So kind of just being able to be a spectator from the outside is going to be cool. So I'm excited to see what these local teams come up with.
Ryan, how about you?
I think it's going to be awesome, and I, kind of like what you guys said, can't wait to see what teams come up with. I hope we don't see teams fall off the rope a la 2013, tumbling off the pyramid.
Oh man, we can talk about that.
It's not as far as a fall, but build robustly if you're going to attempt that.
My fear was robot, like a mini robot burning up on the rope.
Oh yeah,
but
the big robot this time.
Yeah.
I did have another question. I forgot to ask you guys too. Will every team have their own rope? Like, is anybody going to use the stock rope?
No.
Good question.
Maybe the third or fourth robot. I don't know.
Will every team use the stock rope?
I'll say this: every team that's climbing on Einstein will have their own rope.
Yeah. Oh, this will be another, I think, a prediction too. Is one team is going to come up with a system, and then that maybe is what's adapted. Kind of like the mini bots, kind of like where we see one team think outside the box and come up with something really unique. I think that this year that would be what changes.
That was my question. I wanted you guys to make predictions on. What do you think is going to be the world record climb? How fast?
1 second.
1 second? Oh man.
From engagement, you mean?
Yeah, from like rope contact to plate contact.
Less than 1.5.
We're gonna break the plate.
I know, seriously.
My question is: are we gonna see any teams still going up after the buzzer?
Ooh, that is a great question too.
Isn't
first grade.
Do that? So it has to be the press release 1 second before the match ends.
That's a bummer.
That's a bummer.
This is a bummer, man.
So interesting.
Alrighty.
I still go with 1.5 seconds though.
I thought you said 1 second.
Well, I switched it because he said from contact to the rope. So I was saying like already in your mechanism, which could happen quickly, but
that's gonna be that's gonna be exciting to watch. Is the teams that can do it really, really fast. I think that's gonna be cool. Anytime you have like a race aspect, Sans 2008 being a race itself, it's pretty exciting in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, alrighty, let's wrap up today. We do have one last giveaway to do, but before we get to that, Ryan Dognaux, man, I just really appreciate you coming on. You and I have gone back a really long ways from when we were in high school students, and it's great to see you actively engaged, still in FIRST and still moving forward. Now, you're actually moving though back to the Indy area. So, are you looking for a team? Have you picked one, or are you just going to take some time off?
Oh man, the pressure. Yeah, so moving back to Indiana, got a job in Muncie, and no team yet. Going to kind of take a year off, maybe remotely help 4329 a little bit, and then ease back into it in Indiana and see what happens this next year.
So if you want Ryan to be on your team, just start spamming him like
he's a free agent.
He's a free agent.
Free agent.
Send me a private message on Chief. Yeah.
And Ryan, you don't have to say the company you're working for, but I have to point out, I think you might have known something about the game ahead of time, because what kind of company are you working for?
A rail company now that builds and assembles trains. So
something's going on there. So yeah, Ryan, somebody mentioned you can come back to 234. So you're an alumni of that team, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so let's do that. Let's do that giveaway here. Once again, if you were putting in full steam ahead, that got you an entry into that, and it resets each time. So we'll go ahead and do that. Now, the funny thing is, everybody's going to start doing it, but we already did it, and there's like a 20-second delay. So, I should have done it before. All right, so our winner. What do we still need to give away? Is it the T-shirt? T-shirt sounds right. T-shirt sounds right. All right, here we go. The winner is Stone Monkey 533. Congratulations. You have won the Andy Mark T-shirt. Please send at First Updates Now a message, and we'll get you that going, man. So congratulations to you, and we'll get that sent out to you. I do want to thank
Stone Money, not Stone Monkey. Did you say Stone Monkey?
Stone Monkey, right?
The money, I think.
Is it money? Man, I can't read. It's I'm doing the robot in 3 days. It's 14, 15-hour days for me right now.
I'm on no sleep.
Yeah, I am on almost no sleep right now. But do want to thank everybody for tuning in. Ryan Dognaux, thanks so much, man, for coming in. Mike and Justin for being our awesome host of First Updates Now on the recap. And, of course, Nik Olsen, our producer, working behind the scenes, making things going as well. Don't forget, we'd be delighted if you can give us a follow here on Twitch, or subscribe to us on our YouTube channel or on Facebook or Twitter under First Updates Now for that. And really, it comes down to, if you just want more First Robotics in your life, that's what we're here to do, is provide that to you. Live event coverage, news, especially with our Facebook feed. It's growing like crazy, and just updates in First. That's what we're here to do. We've had a lot of people ask about supporting the show. So we do have actually some new T-shirts out on firstupdatesnow.com. There's a link for a store on there. Thanks to Two Pencil Designs. Actually, I'm wearing one of the new T-shirts right now that we have. So we got a new logo from Two Pencil Designs, which is rad. It's really cool. We're really excited about it. And they're providing the T-shirts as well too. And we have some new different apparel coming out as well too as we move through. But don't forget to visit us, firstupdatesnow.com. You can leave us feedback at firstupdatesnow.com. We're going to be back next week, Monday. I'm going to have to double check this because it's been a long time. But we're going to switch over to our Robot in 3 Days stream once again and check on that team. We do have another update coming in just 26 minutes. So stick around for that. And thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in the First Updates Now. We'll be back in just a little bit. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
This has been a First Updates Now production. Visit us at firstupdatesnow.com or find us under First Updates Now on Facebook or Twitter. All right.